knowledge management system and knowledge management. It's a little bit difficult topics because it's related for some understanding of knowledge and some aspect of knowledge of them, how to do that and manage. We all know the saying that knowledge is power, and every day we recognize the truth of that the more and more. First of all, everyone tells that knowledge is power, but can't identify what this knowledge is. But as for me, the main aspect of knowledge related not for have knowledge, but know how to use it. And therefore, not knowledge is power, but to know how to use knowledge is power. Because if you know some information, it's just information. But if you can use them, it's something better and something more special and more effective for your business or for your practice, something like that. Knowledge management is set of tools, procedures, its methods, practices, and some organizational behavior that help and organize to more productive. We use this just for our effectiveness business structure. It's discipline promoting of integrated approach to identify, to evaluating, and to sharing some information assets. Information, first of all, we just treat this like assets and use them for our daily routine. Knowledge management puts all these assets in well-structured form. It's the main, maybe crucial aspect of this knowledge management structure, because it's not related for some information, but its structured format of this information. It's making it easier for employees to get the information they need in a couple of clicks. First of all, we have to understand the key areas of knowledge management, how we can use knowledge and where and how we can to be managed of this. First of all, it's knowledge accumulation. Knowledge accumulation is the area where employees record their knowledge, experiences, some insights, as well as success and failures. Knowledge accumulation happens on all platforms, because it's not related for some understanding when we use information just for maybe some special needs, but it's some platform where we have to accumulate all this information. It's named like knowledge base. All maybe majority of companies try to use this base for the organizational structure because it helps them to be more productive. And after that, I am just trying to explain in which way. Second is knowledge management. Yes, firstly, when we accumulated some information, we organize this, we collaborate all towards for building some company assets. After that, we try to manage them. Once the knowledge is accumulated, it has to be managed well. It's the main aspect of this. Here, employees work towards collectively managing the information by taking specific roles and responsibilities. When we know about this, it's first of all reference for some for some employee who have to do that. For example, we have few options. First of all, it might be some special maybe staff for this. It's some department like knowledge management department, or maybe some specialist who realizes. But unfortunately, in 90% of companies, we have something else. It's someone who just do that for daily routine, but have another practice. For example, it's maybe HR, human resource manager, who realize all his function, and additionally, he has something like knowledge management assistance. But as for me, it's not true, because this aspect, like knowledge management, needs all effects for someone who have to realize this in the daily regime, not from just in the once of the blue moon or the once in the month. It might be something constantly. And the main aspect after this it's knowledge sharing. When we accumulated all information, when we have this information and manage them, we have to share this. This is where knowledge is finally made available to everyone in the organization. Knowledge sharing is a crucial part of the knowledge management system that ensures that your information resources it's easily accessible to different individuals. Because if we accumulated something and manage them, the main aspects is the using this. And to using this, we just can do that after sharing the information. To my mind, sharing information, it's the most difficult aspect because in the most companies, personal staff, or maybe some administrative aspects, they say don't want to do that because they related for knowledge like the main aspect of information. It's crucial information, and they don't want to share with it because it's something like their own information, the individual information that may be related for the practice aspects, maybe some experiences, something like that. But if we create some situation in which company, personal, trying to share all this information and trying to be better, it makes to improve this knowledge and some organizational structure. Because first of all, we said about this, that information is something like power. But if everyone to know this, it helps us to be better. Not for someone who just knows this, but for another kind of people and some colleagues and some staff and something like that. Unfortunately, we just today we just focus on some benefits of using some or implementing of knowledge management. This system has some maybe disadvantages. I just try to think about this, but first of all, we just try to say about some benefits, maybe some kind of advantages of using this system. First of all, every organization can highly benefit from their people sharing, innovating, and collaborating and learning some information. If this process might be so maybe in the dynamic version and constantly, it helps to be more productive. This makes it a good idea to boost knowledge management by implementing proper knowledge and management techniques in which your business entity can use this. First of all, it improves the decision-making process. How we can use that? By obtaining access to some knowledge of entire organization, employee can advance to qualify and speed of decision-making. When making decision, enterprise collaboration tool facilitate for doing this, it helps to make this process a little bit easily. It's maybe in a nutshell, it's simplify this process in which people can do this because you know all information. And when people know everything about this project, about these assets, about some behavior, they can do that. And controversially, if you don't know this information and you can't find this, it makes some routine and some difficult and exaggerate everything for your daily functions for like managerial or maybe some another kind of stuff. Second, it's promote innovation and cultural change. As for me, maybe organizational culture or corporate culture is the more essential aspect of every company. And if company can to create this corporate culture with some principles, with some methods, with some structures, it helps everyone to use this information and to belong themselves to this company. Knowledge management, it enables to encourage the sharing of ideas and collaboration and access to the latest information. First of all, it might be latest because if you use something in your company, for example, some form of document, and you know that it's the best way, but maybe your colleague don't know this. And if you're sharing with this information, it helps to him to be better and use maybe some modern form of this document, and it helps you. And therefore, it promotes some innovation. It helps you to maybe increase your cultural changes and makes some routine in which everything in this your company being sharing for this. And it also allows individual to stimulate innovation, and the cultural change needed to involve organization to meet changing some business needs. When people understand the reason to use information and understand that the using the best kind of information, find the best way, some best practice to selling, to doing something, to creating, to negotiations, it helps us to make the better way in which people trying to realize their function. Another aspect is speed up access to knowledge and information. What does it mean? Knowledge management simplifies the operation of finding the information you need. First of all, I try to focus on in the creating the base of knowledge. Base of knowledge, maybe it's a simple aspect of knowledge management, because you create some system in which everyone who has some kind of information, and it might be some really well organized. If you don't organize this, maybe it's makes more difficult to find some information, then it's simplifying for this. But when you do that, people can to find some information easily. For example, if we, for example, starting at university and we want to get in some maybe some trip for another country, or maybe it might be some change students for another country, and you trying to find this form of doing this because you have to appeal about this, and you trying to, for example, firstly go to the dean, maybe some for administrative aspects, and ask some things for where I can find these documents. But if you have some base in which all these documents is included, it's really simplify your say daily routine, because you just download these forms and can use this. And when you, for example, download this form, you understand the reasons. But you have to understand that just have the base of knowledge. It's the simple aspects. It's some essentials, fundamental aspect of knowledge management, but it's not related for maybe manage this information. It just indicates some information. It just provides you some possibility to find this information, use this information, and after this to share this, but not for manage them. And therefore, if you have something like this, if you have this form of document in which we have, for example, to appeal, maybe it's related for related for some vacation, maybe it's related for getting some fee, maybe most important, maybe while share, it's some knowledge aspects like training. For example, if you have some training aspects, for example, it's to possibility to visit some courses, and you have the top of list these courses. You have the form in which you have to, for example, to appeal about this, and the last one you have some comments about this. And when you have these comments, how to have to do that? Because to have some information and to have knowledge, it's a different things. For example, we maybe majority of us, and I guess everyone knows about how using Microsoft Word. But if you say somebody about Microsoft Word, it's just information. But if you can, for example, create some base, some schedule, some tables in these documents, I mean, in the Microsoft Office, it's related for something like knowledge, because knowledge, you just can't share, you can share it with knowledge, you can share it with information, but knowledge must be formulated. And when you formulate some knowledge, it's related not so just for information, it's related, secondly, for something like practice. And when you have know what is it, and you know how you can do that, it's related for knowledge. And for example, if I am like a teacher and I'm teaching for last 5 years, and somebody asks me some questions about how to teach another people, and I can, for example, share with some techniques, but it's something like information. And you just accept this and think about this, like, okay, information. First of all, you have to, for example, to say hi. After that, you have to say some plain schedule of your lesson. You have to demonstrate something. If somebody have questions, you have to do that and allow them to get answer. But it's just information. But how to manage this? It's knowledge. And knowledge you just got after some practice, some experience. And when it's formulated, it helps to be better and use your information in the best way. Okay, the next one in this, it's avoid redundant effort. What does it mean? Maybe majority of us doing something in twice. For example, if you do some documents and you know about some aspects and you try to use some information and you do that maybe twice and then more time. But if you, for example, to write down these aspects, for example, about data, maybe about some techniques, it helps you not do this and twice and find this information. First of all, it's rated for some, maybe general information about organization. For instance, in university, everyone has some aspects, maybe some main descriptions of university, and we use this everywhere. We don't write this every time again and again. No, we just write this, and for example, we have these documents, and when we need to use this, we just sharing with this information. That's all. We just copy paste. That's all. And to have the base in which you can accumulate all this information, it helps to do that. For example, the modern university use the knowledge management for staff and for students. How we can use this for students? For example, we can use this for creating some base where students can find all information about some discipline, not just for this year, but for all entire their courses. For example, it's management courses, maybe law courses, doesn't matter, maybe corporate culture, something like that. And you find all this information. You can find all tasks, you can find all tests and everything about this. And every year after, for example, when you finish these courses, you have to accumulate, add new information for this system. And after this, for example, some student just graduated university and she starts working for maybe human resource management, yes. And she starts, for example, recognize, oh my God, what's some information I have to, for example, use in this? Because it was maybe in the second course of university. And therefore, you just open this base and find all this information and some comments about this, because it helps us to use this. Another example, for example, for some techniques to preparation for exam. All of us use a different way in which we, for example, can to prepare for exams. And if everyone, every student just try to make some own technique how to do that, and we just use this from some base, and after this, another students just share with their own this views about this, and we have to check it. And after we just estimate the best practice and find this, we can create the better one, because we have this information. And if we just have one view, one point of view, some decisions, some views, it just mitigate and maybe simplify this understanding. But for example, when we use for example, 32 students or 42 students and 50 students, something like that, and everyone tells some or share with some information about the best practice, how to prepare for exam, and we can find the best method and create this. And if we just to add this, the best ways for our base, and the next year, maybe some new students, fresh students, just to prepare for exams, find something new, and maybe create something else that helps them to do this maybe is a better way. And therefore, it helps us to use the modern and more efficient aspects and more efficient practice of this. But if you realize this for a company, it helps you to motivate your staff and to get in more assets, some benefits. It's maybe financial, social, psychology benefits, because everyone trying to share with this information. And it's really so interesting. And after that, for example, I just told about some maybe main benefits about this, but we have something like special. Why I named this like special? Because these aspects related for company and help us to make the best practice and using our human resource in the better way, more efficiently. Precisely, I mean, to doing this functional daily routine, something like that. It's not related for just companies routines. It's maybe some daily routine like the regular life. Okay, first of all, it helps in regular knowledge transfer. I just trying to explain this because, for example, when somebody knows some information about something, for example, about some partners. Just imagine we have some company structure and some company just try to help to our health, has some treatment with some companies, maybe some business partners, something like that. And we will trying to use this information in our team. Employees are the biggest knowledge source. And way they live, the knowledge they hold also lives with them, and which can be a huge loss for the organization. And it's maybe so wild words. And for example, when we have some organizations and some peoples, they realize their function at university, at corporate or corporate structure, it doesn't matter. And they know some information about company, about partners, about techniques, how to realize this. And when they, for example, leave their function, I mean, leave these jobs, we're trying to find something who have to substitute them. But we don't understand that in which way, I mean, in this way, some people who leave this company, they hold all information about some maybe partners, about some techniques, how to realize this. It's some knowledge how to do this. And we try to find another people and try to explain this. But in this way, if we make some system in which some, for example, professional or some staffs trying to teach another one and makes all this in some base, it helps us to grow another part of this maybe candidates, and secondly, for these staffs and realize they function more efficiently. For example, just imagine it's our university and I am like teacher and I am sharing every some information about lectures, about some seminars, about some cases. And I know maybe some practice, some techniques, how to realize this. And one day, if I, for example, leave my jobs and my company or my university, try to find another one to substitute me, first questions which this person have to, for example, ask is what I have to do and how. But if, for example, I trying to do that in the more efficiently and create some base in which I have to, for example, write how to organize some international conference like this, because it's some knowledge. For example, Novita knows about how to do that, how we have to write for some administrative persons in university, how we have to share with this information, what some about some difference with times, something like that. And if we, for example, create this system in which some people, some staff try to explain everything this, it really helps us to make some situation in which another people, when it comes to be our company, knows something more for another one, because it's some maybe general questions, and it's some general questions related for some adaptation persons and something like that. But we know we have to understand this, that a regular knowledge transfer, it helps us. And if we, for example, lost some colleagues, we have to know how to make some situation in which another one can obtain all this information which another one, for example, knows. Just that. It's really so maybe significant for everyone. And if we know this, how to do that, it helps us. I know that it's difficult, for example, to maybe to do some or make some regime in which to share with some information, and because maybe majority of us use some information and maybe treat for them like it's our own information, and we don't want, for example, to share for another one some information that helps us to to do our works, because we just got money about this, and it's if knowledge it's money, it's a little bit maybe unreasonable to share this information. But when people understand that sharing this information helps us to make some situation in which people or all staff grows, it's really so interesting, and it's organize all corporate structure and organize all systems and makes us to be better. Second aspect, it makes best practices reservable. What does it mean? I just try to explain this. Every time it's problem, it's solved, it can be documented. So what the next time someone faces the same issues, they don't have to start all over again. What does it mean? For example, if I use some information with some documents, or maybe I know some of the best practice of negotiations, if I make maybe some trial document, like trial agreement, and share with this, another one can use this information for their own interests, which helps them to use the modern practice. And when, for example, we make this practice, after this, for example, if we know the modern version of some documents and our staff trying to find some mistakes, trying to find some aspects in which we can, for example, increase some aspects in these documents, maybe some fix it, or maybe some to increase something, maybe change some words, it stimulates another people to do that. And after that, we just got the modern, and maybe the best way of these documents, maybe best form of the documents. It's really so interesting, and it helps us. It doesn't matter it's corporate structure, maybe it's government structure. If we do something and sharing with this and another one to find this, it helps us. For example, just imagine this presentation. I make this presentation, I like to share this information with some thesis. I don't like to use all information with a text, because everyone starts just reading but not listening to me. But if I, for example, share with this form of presentation, and somebody tell me, for example, you can, for example, change this method or the font of these documents. Maybe you can, for example, change these pictures. You have to minimize some text, something like that. I just accept this, and after that fix. It helps me to use these documents, I mean, these current documents, in the better way. It's really so interesting. And if we make this situation in which everyone just add their own view about something in company, it stimulates another one to find this information and maybe to check this and use the best form of this information. Maybe the best kind of agreement, the best method of negotiations. Maybe it's related for some motivation stuffs. For example, if we have some methods how to motivate our staffs, and another one, and we have this in the base in which we just clearly explain, yes, provide some explanation about how to do that, and another one just meet it, face to this, and have to use this. And maybe last of this but not least, it speeds up employee onboarding. Getting new employees familiar with your company, its work and people requires more than just the officer hour. And new hires need content support right from the day on, be able to work confidently and get to speed faster. And when some you, for example, employer, I mean fresh employer, just come to company, he has few maybe general questions. These questions: what I have to do, what my dinner time just started, when I have to leave my work, who is, for example, the maybe administrators of this company, something like that. And all these questions, if we have this in our base, in making this in our knowledge management and included for our base, it really makes some situation in which people find all this information easily. Another one about vacation. Who, for example, works for some company knows about vacation, but we don't know the list, I mean schedule, in which people, for example, our staffs gets this vacation. For example, maybe someone gets vacation in the January, another one, for example, in the March, another one in the September, something like that. But if we have this list in our base and everyone can see that and share with this, and we know, for example, no, I can, for example, get some vacation in January because my colleagues, for example, in these times will get some vacations, something like that. Secondly, it's related for some forms in which you have to appeal for your boss, maybe some administrative staff, how to get this vacation. And if we don't maybe organize this, it looks like, for example, someone asked another colleague how I can get my vacation. He answered for this: you have to write appeal. You just ask another one. Okay, where I can find this? You have answered. Please, you can find this information in HR. I mean, yes, human resource. You go for human resource department. Human resource department try to explain you where you can find this appeal and what you have to write. Okay, you get this appeal and trying to, for example, write everything. When you, for example, come for this manager, he said, no, you just get some mistakes. You say, okay, you have, for example, you lost your signature, for example, yes. You just do that again. But if we make some system and some base in which we have, first of all, the form of this appeal, and after this, some general keywords, I mean, key aspects in which, for example, this human resource manager just try to explain how you have to, for example, write this, I mean, full those documents. It makes some situations in which you really simplify your process, because you just read, okay, first of all, you have to choose your days. Okay, you do that. In this case, I mean, in this base, you just find something like another one in which, for example, you just say, okay, I can get this in January or in March, it doesn't matter, in July. Okay, when I have to write this appeal, okay, you have these options. Like appeal, you have to write, for example, maybe 1 month before. It just related for your corporate structure and your maybe government difference for some countries. But for example, before 1 month, when you want to get some maybe some vacation. Okay, another one. Which documents I have to provide for this? I mean, which documents you have to, for example, demonstrate for your boss or maybe for organization. If you, for example, want to get this vacation for your health, maybe for some another aspects for related for your children, something like that. You have this answer. And after that, when you find all this answer and you read this information, you got it, and you fill your all this list, I mean, your documents, it helps you to, first of all, it's minimize your time, it's economy, your maybe some physical aspects. I mean, you don't, for example, go to this human resource and you got some information about this, but it's really simplify everything. And therefore, people understand how to do that, because it's help they for the onboarding. I mean, it's help they for adoption periods for times. Because if somebody comes for a new company and he doesn't know anything about this company, for instance, we can get another examples that more maybe not interesting, but maybe so popular for us, it's for students. If we're just trying to create this base for our university, and before I share this information with you, if we create some information in which our fresh students have to do, for example, what their exam is, you just explain. Exam is something, procedures in which you have, for example, checking your knowledge. Exams we have twice at the year, something like that. Secondly, where I have to, for example, find books for my classroom, for my class, and in which you just explain this and you just add all literature for him. Okay, it helps him. Another one, if I want, for example, to change my specialty, what I have to do? And you just answer for these questions. And these questions might be for like something like lists, in which list every student just got this information. It's really simplify all maybe processes at university, simplify everything in some corporate structure anyway, in everywhere, but you can't use this just for the benefits, because we have to understand that making this process, it means something that everyone have to share with this information. You have to stimulate them, motivate them to do that. Secondly, it might be some financial aspect, because you have to make this process. But maybe if we have something like cost a lot of money and something like it's so maybe cheap for us. If we, for example, use and trying to do that, it's not means that we have to get some financial assets and some problems with this. No, just create some Google Drive, in which Google Drive we just make this base in which we have all documents which we needed, all questions, maybe for some Microsoft Word documents, where we have all answers for these questions. It helps us, because a lot of people, majority of us, think that if we try to use or formulate some knowledge management system, it needs some financial. Yes, if we want to maybe increase this or develop this, yeah, I agree with this. But on another side, we have to do that in the maybe easier way. For example, starting with Google Drive, for another drivers, Yandex driver, it doesn't matter, in which we have to accumulate all information which we need about how to do that. And after that, maybe it's more so important in this aspect, motivate our people, our staff, to sharing with this information. Because if you use just this for base, like knowledge base, it's named not like knowledge base knowledge, but it's maybe some information base, because you have just information. But if everyone trying to use this information, try to check it and to improve, it's really so help us to make this. And therefore, if we speak about something like knowledge base, we have to understand some goals of creating knowledge base. I guess it's so understandable for everyone, because when we, for example, think about this, it's understandable that, for example, if we have some base, it helps us to make or accumulate all information in one document, in one platform, in which we have to use this everywhere, not just for university or something like some workplace. First goals is to provide effective access of employees of the institution of all information knowledge function of an organization. What does it mean? If we have all information that's structured in some base, some platform, we don't need, for example, to find these documents. For instance, when we use some information about our organizational structure, we maybe 90% use this similar synonyms. We use synonym some information, the same information. And if we, for example, makes all this information in some base, it helps us to use this every day, everywhere and every day. It's related for some form of maybe letter. For example, if we want to write to some company with maybe accommodation, maybe we write for some university for partnership, if we just trying to use this in the better way, I mean, we just copy this letter in our base and use this when we want, not trying to find this information and lost a lot of times to find this information, but have this everywhere and when we really need it. Secondly, it's establish the types of knowledge required by user for their work. Yeah, when we know about our workplace and we know about our work functions, I mean job functions, institutional functions, it's easily to do that. Secondly, maybe after this, it's makes a situation in which we have to develop of obtaining this knowledge, because when someone got some information about how to do something, he can to analyze this and think about this. Maybe he knows the better way how to do that. And therefore, if he fix this information in this base with some comments in which we just got these questions, and for example, he just maybe improves this way, it helps us to use the best practice. And maybe one of the goals that it's so easy, and maybe I think it's the first aspects of all knowledge base, it's build an effective procedure for documenting processes. What does it mean? You have to have all these documents, your stuffs, something like that, in your base. It's something related for not just for knowledge management, it's some like risk management. Because if you have all your documents in your some base, it helps you to use this information everywhere and where you want, because you have this in structured form, not trying to find one document in one folders, another documents in another folders, or for example, somebody called you and say, please, can you please send me some information or some letters? For example, it's maybe some sending letters of your university. And if you, for example, make this system in which we have all this base, which, for example, letter we just sent for some university, for another university, it's easy to find this information. Not trying to search in this for the, I don't know, a lot of folders, million folders. I don't know what about you, but I have a lot of folders in my laptop because to find some information. But if you make this system in which you know it's related for maybe it's crucial components of your company, maybe it's some documents with some registration, some documents from your staff, some for salary system, it helps us to make this more efficiently. And therefore, I'm trying to share with this information for you just for some reasons. Because when we use information, it's okay, but trying to use this in the better way, it's creates some situation in which everyone being motivated to use their own information, to share with this information, to use all maybe best methods in this maybe organizational structure workplace in the efficiently. What does it mean efficiently? It doesn't mean, for example, you not spend some times. For example, if I know the best way how to prepare for some presentation, I can share with this information and just make some system. Like first steps, you have to accumulate some information. Secondly, you have to think about this. Third, it's some structure about your presentation. You have to be polite, something like that. It's some principles and methods and some steps. And if I write this in some documents and share with my colleagues, it's really minimize some economy time for preparation. And maybe another aspect of this, it helps them to improve this. Because if they find my best way how to do that, maybe they have some fixes for this. And if I just notice this and find this aspect how to use this in the better way, it's really more efficient because I'm trying to think about this. Okay, I know this, but for example, my colleague told me you have to firstly say not about this, but said about this. And maybe you have to change or rechange some documents or maybe some presentations, some information. And if I just think about this, yeah, okay, it's really so reasonable, and therefore I can use this. And therefore, I improve my aspects. I improve my all assets like information and like knowledge. And therefore, I'm changing this information in my base, and another one who come for company finds this. The knowledge management system and improving this, we just faces for a lot of company like Google, like Toyota, like Apple, something like that, because they can use this and try to hold all information in company, not just from some stuffs, because when stuff leaves, information leaves. That's all. And if we make some situation in which we have to hold this information in the organizational culture, I know that because it's really so difficult, because no one wants, for example, to share with some information, firstly. And secondly, it's difficult to check and analyze this system all time. I mean, constantly. And therefore, if we do that, it really helps us to use all information process, use all our obtain some techniques, methods, firstly, in one platform, I mean, structured, and secondly, make some situation in which we have to use this, I mean, more in efficiently way. It's the last maybe aspects for my topics, which I have to want to share with you. And if you have some questions, I'm deeply glad to answer for them. And first of all, thank you for this allowance that you allow me to demonstrate these topics, because I really want to share this information, because it's so important for us, because some knowledge management system, it's so interesting and so modern aspects, and majority of companies trying to use this. I know that it's difficult, we have some problems, some benefits and something like that, but to use this, it's really for some starting, and when we just start this, it helps us to improve this in a better way. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. Yeah, for all audience, if you wanna ask question, you can raise your hand or you can write in the room chat. Okay, for first question, we have from Miss Eva. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Novita. Thank you, Mr. Fikret, maybe for your series. Okay. I want to ask about I work in a family company. I want to ask you about how to be a main seat about from the top management, because it is very difficult to me. Before you said about benefits of implementing a knowledge management system, like promote innovation and cultural change. I have difficult to change the culture of the top management. Before is culture to be a moderate culture. How to solution about our problem now? It's sometime this time I'm very difficult to change the growth mindset of the management. Can you take the solution about our problem? Thank you, Mr. Fikret.
First of all, thank you for questions, because it's so interesting questions, because I just met for these situations every time. Because really top management of majority companies don't want to, I mean, reluctant to realize the system, and they first of all think about some difficulties, because for implementing this, and they treat for this like the lost time, and it's difficult to make this situation. But I have this practice, and you know, maybe the best way, or maybe the best tips how to use this for a company, it's starting with some personal, I mean with some stuff, Because when top management don't want, or maybe don't try to allow some situation in which you can use this, it's okay. But you first have to understand that it helps you to be better and for your colleagues. And if you trying to use this with your colleagues and make the best way, for example, of your some documents and sharing with these documents, it might be some Google Drive. In trust, maybe 70% and all companies I'm trying to implement in this, it started with Google Drive because it's not expensive, first of all, because we have this and everyone can use this. And we just try to do this in which form? First of all, we download all documents which we can use in our daily routine. For example, if it's related for your managerial some functions, like to hire somebody, to fire some personals, maybe to some documents about some agreements, we just structured this in these documents. I mean, in Google Drive. And after that, maybe it's so really so difficult. It's trying to make some situation in which everyone in your staff trying to share his own information about this. It's so crucial because if you just download these forms of documents, another one just read and say, okay, that's all. They don't want to check it. But when you, for example, make a situation in which everyone try to estimate this, for example, if you make some article, just imagine, about this, and I'm just trying to check it and say, Eva, I think that you can, for example, change this because starting with this information or getting this some arguments, it's not understandable and reasonable for this article. Trying to paraphrase this, yes, trying to change this. And therefore, if everyone tells about and maybe provides their own views about this, it's stimulated this to do that. But if you just trying to make some base with documents without some analysis, without some checking, and without for maybe a collaboration of all stuff, that might be all stuff for 2, 3, 4 people, because it's maybe unbelievable to use all your organizational structure, maybe in all 100%, I mean, in this process, it's so difficult. But 20, 30, 40%, it's enough. And if you, for example, communicate with your colleagues and tell something, okay, just trying to do that. And when your top management, after this, maybe takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, just understand that it's really simplify your works. Because and another day, if somebody comes for your company and ask you, for example, Eva, where can I, for example, find this document? And you say, please, I just, for example, share with our Google Drive. You can find this information about this. We just write everything about this. For example, how to motivating people or stuff. And you just write some article and present some methods. If your another colleagues trying to check it, estimate, and find the better maybe comments for you, it helps to you maybe be better because you just find new information. And the main aspects, it's trying to fix this information. I mean, trying to add for your base. And after that, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, when everyone start to use this information in daily routine, and you understand that, okay, it's better because, for example, before that, I like, for example, you send some emails with this text and your colleagues say please, something like, trying to add something in the end of your letter, like sincerely, best regards. You say, okay, maybe it's really so interesting. And you add this. Another one said, no, it's not interesting because best regards, it's trying to, for example, it's better if you use, for example, something like sincerely, your colleagues, something like that. Oh, maybe it's better. But you have to understand that it's really changes, but some structures with some jobs perfections, and secondly, and maybe the last of them, of your personal understanding of it. And if you start with a small group trying to use Google Drive, because we have a professional program for this, professional tools in which we download all documents, in which everyone, and we have like some account like Facebook. For example, I have my account in my knowledge base, and we have, for example, it's my Fikret Khosrovlu, yes. If I check something, or for example, I fix something, these documents, they have some fixed and right by Fikret Khosrovlu changes, and I'm some likes and comments. Please, I get, for example, I think that it's better for using this information in another kind, or add this information for your letter. And we just do it because it's clear and open system. And it really needs some maybe financial aspects. I know this because it's $1,000 per month. But if you use this form starting, and after this, your top management understands that it helps for your new colleagues to onboard. It helps you to find the best way, because I know from my experience, I think that you will agree about this. For example, if some your colleague write you, Eva, can you please send me some letter about some communication, about some systems, or about some partners? And you say, okay, I know, but I don't know where is this letter. And you're trying to find this letter, oh my God, where I can, for example, get this document. But if you have this base in which you indicate all your documents with structure, for example, you send this for Azerbaijan University, and you know, Azerbaijan University, you open these folders and find all emails, all, for example, staffs, everyone, for example, like lecturer like me, my all information. It helps you to share this information, not find this every time. It's really so, I know that it's difficult to make situation in which everyone starts sharing with this information. But when people understand the effectiveness of this, it helps us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fikret. Your suggestion is very useful to me. And then I'll try to use suggestion.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This is my homework today. I think it's very difficult to work in a family's company to make a change of the mindset to be a good mindset, our culture and modern culture. I think it's very important to me. And thank you very much for your suggestion. I'll try to implement in our job and for the next. Thank you, Mr. Fikret. Thank you, Mbak Novita.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eva. And then the next question, this is from Mr. Faiz. What is the importance of knowledge management in website, and how can I apply knowledge management to different website or web pages? Thank you.
If you, okay, where is this? What's the importance of knowledge management in websites, and how can I apply knowledge management to different websites or web pages? You know, about information of, knowledge management, you can find everywhere, but really the best way to use this information, like base or knowledge management, it's created your own pages, own websites. It might be websites or Google Driver. Firstly, it's Google Driver because it's easily. And the second part, it's really related for pages, because 30% of all bases, they indicated in some websites. And when you, for example, do that, you find this information, you make this information, you try to make some understanding for people how to use this information in which understanding. About importance, firstly, it helps people to find the best practice easily. Secondly, you have aloneness for getting this information, because, for example, if you have some Google Driver, it's a little bit difficult because you have to share with this information, and maybe someone not have some accesses for this Google Driver. It's difficult maybe to regulate. But if you make something like with pages, it's maybe some website in which you do that with some options, it's really help you. There are a lot of books about knowledge management system, and I guess maybe 10 years, 15 years, it's enough to that all companies try to do that. Because, for example, in our company or in Russian, in Ukraine, all companies change this situation and start be it's obviously and maybe oblige them to create this base. For example, in Russian, last 2 years, they obliged all companies, I mean government companies, government structures, to create base of knowledge nodes, because this knowledge base helps them to accumulate all information and maybe fix all process with some studying for something like teaching, something like stimulating, and maybe obtaining new information.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you for this.
Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Faiz. And the last question, this is question from audience in the YouTube from Ms. Diah Rahmi. How to implement knowledge of the management system of an organization if there are some gaps or different class, group, social status, or senior vs junior?
Okay, one second. How to implementing a knowledge of management system of organization if there are some gap of different class, group, social status, and senior? Yeah, it's a little bit same for first questions like Eva, because social status and maybe some aspects of top management, it's some difficulties for implementing this system. Yeah, it's difficult to make this situation but social status, because if it's related for social status, not everyone want to share this information, and not everyone want to, for example, to make situation in which you use this his own information. But about these social classes, you have to understand that it's related for some works, not for some social classes. Because I understand that for maybe somebody have a lot of money, maybe somebody less, but when we realize our functions, it's related for knowledge. It's related not for social status, it's related for our understanding and our information, what we have. When we obtain from university and maybe practice. And maybe, you know, it's not more for theoretical information, but it's more than practical information. And somebody who maybe with some social status, who's not maybe relevant for some another kind of organizations, but can implement a new views that's more interested than another knows. For example, my students sometimes told me something interesting that I have never think about this. Because I say, okay, yeah, really. Because, for example, I have some cases with management, and it's so interesting cases about people who every time late for, it's about some chronic lateness. Every time late for lessons, for the job, something like that. And I use these cases maybe last 3 years, yes, for my management courses. And, you know, just maybe a few weeks ago, some students asked me some questions about some aspect of these cases. And I just got that I have never thought about this. And I, for example, use these cases 3 years, but I have never think about this, because some information that he understands and he notices this, but I can't. And therefore I say, okay, great. And I'm trying to fix my cases because it's some new information for me and some understanding, because it changed my answer for this. I mean, change my solution and something like that. Because, you know, it's social groups, some status, it's difficult, but psychology aspects. But for using this information for practicing, it's related for doing this and more efficiently. And everyone, doesn't matter with some social status, realize their function. And if they find these ways how to do that best in trying to share this information, it's better. I know that it's more important and maybe some lack of some aspects, it's related reference for understanding, for sharing this information. Because people with different social groups don't want, for example, share some information from another one, from some reasons. I don't want, for example, to explain this, but you have to first of all understand this. It doesn't matter who realizes this function, but if you're a manager for human resource and another human resource manager too, you realize, I mean, you do something same. And these same things, if you understand this, it makes you to be better. And when you start use it, and maybe another one with another social groups, another ethnic groups, it's not nationality, can find some aspects that you can never, for example, noticed. And it's difficult by psychology aspect, but we saw individually. And to get some answer which it's maybe appropriate for your structure, for your country, it's difficult for me because, for example, I can say this from my company, from my experience, from my, for example, government structure with my people and by my ethnic groups. But when we, for example, share with some information and advices for another people, it's difficult to to know about these differences, because maybe I, for example, now say you about it's maybe general information about this, but about maybe social status or some different class and social class in your country, it's more maybe difficult. It's more problem, may make some more problems than, for example, in Azerbaijan, Ukraine, it's United States, something like that. And therefore, you have to understand the structure for your government, your social status, and with your corporate structure. And first of all, you have to grow, develop your corporate culture. And when you do that, it helps you to do that, because without corporate culture, and maybe some corporate culture with maybe directed for developing, it's so difficult to do, because it might be some just base of information, not knowledge. Because no one can share with this information, with this knowledge, and not trying to formulate this knowledge.
Okay, thank you. I think we don't have no more question again from audience. Yeah, before I close this event, maybe have another session for them take a picture, sir, before for documentation. Okay. Yeah, the face.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Novita.
Okay, what's the question is?
Okay, for those who have an activity camera, you can activate the camera first, so you can take photos together. Okay. Bagi Bapak Ibu yang belum mengaktifkan kameranya, silakan bisa diaktifkan terlebih dahulu.
Okay, I find some questions like with Embar, yes, in the chats.
Let me
Okay.
count from 1, 2, 3. Once again.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, I can find how to implement knowledge of management system organization. If there are some gaps of I just answer for this, and how to implement knowledge of the culture management system to another different countries to make understanding. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult really to implement, because when we, for example, find the best practice to doing something, it doesn't matter which is country. For example, if we, for example, trying to copy a United States system, Canada, Germany, Azerbaijan, Turkey, it doesn't matter. We have to understand that the process in which this knowledge management, and not just knowledge management, maybe corporate culture, just formulated, we spend a lot of time. And this formulated for some periods of times. People, it's something like, for example, if we for example, allow our students in the first maybe year of university doing something for we allow for the last years of university, because it's a different aspects. In the first course of university, they just understand the the relevant of university, what's being students, and something like that. But in another way, when you, for example, make this situation, you have to understand this and be formulating for this. For example, when students in the first class just trying to understand what the exam is, what the dean is, what our faculty is. In the second course, he understands the ways how to, for example, prepare for exams, how to have to, for example, communicate with dean, with administrative aspects. It needs some process and time. And therefore, I try to explain that a lot of country and a lot of organization try and just copy and find the best, maybe views, best ways how to realize this. But it's difficult. I can, for example, if you find some video with some footballer like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and say that he does that for this way, it's okay? Not, because he spent a lot of time for training in something like for this understanding like corporate culture or some corporate knowledge, because it might be formulating. People start using this. We have to copy this, but after that, we have to adopt this for our structure. It doesn't matter. It may be government structure or maybe some private structure. It doesn't matter. We have to understand this. It's really so cool if you find this way, but after this, you have to adopt this and understand all. Maybe SWOT analysis about this. Yes, what's the weakness of this? What's the benefits? What's something that maybe might be like disadvantages? It helps you. And after this, understand this. And therefore, when we speak about implementing this system for another country, first of all, you have to find the best practice about this. And after this, trying to adapt for your corporate culture and for your, maybe it's a university, maybe it's some organizational structure, maybe some government structure, and how to do that. For understanding with some differences with these countries, and trying to do that with maybe step by step. We can, for example, teach a child to run if he, for example, can't to go. Yes, I mean to walk. It's some process that we have to understand this. And when we do that, it might be something like formulating. When this knowledge formulating, when you make situation, everyone trying to share this information, believe me, everyone trying to use this. And you create your own structure and your own management system. What's the interesting? And it's a main aspect of this, a main, maybe crucial component. Create something that's related just for your organization, not for another one, not for some cooperation wellness of another country, not, but for your country. But with understanding the best practice for another countries. It's okay, because it's modern. You can, for example, read Sigmund Freud, yes, I mean Freud, and do that, but understanding that, for example, last 20, 30 years, or maybe 100 years, we just improve these aspects. We have to use the best understanding of this, but with your own filter, with your own understanding of this.
Thank you. And another question from Miss Sri Rejeki, Miss Sectors.
How to get efficiently organized management system and organized with many differences, classes, status, cultures, and influence globalization communication. Yes, it will be some same for questions that I answered, but about globalization and about this, because if we influence this, I mean impact this. Okay, I'm trying to repeat that. Really, to create your own system, it's difficult. And to realize something with different status, I mean, social status, with some social groups, with some cultures, it's so difficult. I can, for example, give you some vaccine, I mean, pharmacy for fix it at the moment, not. Because first of all, you have to understand the reason in which you implement this system. Because, you know, with my practice, I got in a lot of situation when some organizational structure top managers realize this from their own understanding this just for making base of documents because it helps them. But when you do that for groups, for teams, and with some understanding that it helps them to realize they function efficiently, it might be some culture with organizational culture. And when people sharing with this information, with this understanding, it might be constantly processed. It's something like maybe addictions, really, because you're trying to find this. It's some addictions by movie and it's addictions by knowledge, because you understand that, for example, I know something about management. Faiz something know about another aspect. Novita's now something else. And anyone's know about something interesting aspect. But if we accumulated everything this in one base, it makes us to find the best solution of some understanding. Because maybe, for example, I'm like a manager, yes. Maybe someone who intended in this presentation, he's maybe, I don't know, maybe a lawyer. Another one maybe some doctor. Another some is maybe engineer. And if we, for example, look for some problem with different types of view, it makes some interesting answer. It's some maybe a complex solution, and we understand this. But just using one opinion, as for me, it's related for maybe not democratic some ways of leaderships, and makes the way in which people just realize their function and thinks about the finish their works at the 5 or 6 p.m. and go home. But if they understand maybe the importance about this and trying to do that without any including some aspect about corporate structure, about something like some social status, about something about some cultures, you do that. But you have to understand these differences, because it's unbelievable to realize or formulate this without this understanding and without these factors. Dear Novita, if someone have questions, I'm ready to answer. It's so joy to be here and have some communication with you. And therefore, if someone have some questions, maybe something like that, I'm glad to answer.
Yeah. I think we don't have no more question again, sir. Okay. Yeah. Before finally we come to the end of visiting lecture today, we would like to say thanks for Mr. Fikret Khosrovlu from Western Caspian University from Azerbaijan for the wonderful information. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for our audience, and I hope we can meet again in another event in the future. Also, I would like to thank all participants for attending this class today and making this even more interesting. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with the Western Caspian University. The visiting lecture for today and here. We hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you so much for Mr. Fikret.
Thank you a lot, and I wish you the best in trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.